Hello, good evening, everybody. Dirk Delirium here, otherwise Delirium Dirk, both on Facebook, and you can always contact me there, of course. Greetings. We are doing the second half of Step 6 tonight. And again, just to clarify, I am not the face of AA, NA, CA, HA, or NEA. I'm simply a face of recovery, and I have worked 12 steps that have saved my life, plain and simple. Until I got honest with myself and worked the steps, I choose to do it through this particular blue book, and this is one of the programs I follow, but I am not brand specific. All of the 12 steps basically branch from the same principles. So if you follow them in whatever program you're comfortable with, I could care less. They work. And I am living proof of that. So anyway, back to Step 6. Oh, a couple other things on housekeeping. We have another Facebook group. I would love you guys to join. It's a pretty widespread group of us, but it's called Alcoholics/Addicts Living Recovery. Living is all capitalized, and recovery's got about 3 exclamation marks. So Facebook group, Alcoholics/Addicts Living Recovery, that's us. And we have the 2 YouTube channels. The first is Scared Sober Delirium Tremens, DELIRIUM Tremens, TREMENS. They're not delirium tremors. That's a real fucked up deal. It's when your body shuts down and you die from withdrawal from alcohol. I have been through them 5 times. But the first time almost took me out, and that was a 4.5 day of pure hell. If you're curious and you've experienced where you start to hear things and then see things, you're not crazy. It is just what happens to about 200,000 of us a year, and those are the ones that don't die. It's typically a 70% mortality rate. Our other channel, of course, is Working the 12 Steps Live, Working the 12 Steps of Recovery Live. So sign up for both of them. Just hit the little subscribe button and you'll see all our videos. All right, so this is the second half of Step 6. So what is Step 6? Out of the book that I choose to read, says we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Okay, first big word there is 3 letters, God. That is a God of your understanding, a God of your conception. I don't care what it is. This or any of the other ones are not a religious program, period. If you make that argument, I beg to differ with you, you're wrong. It says so right here in black and white. It's not a religious program. Your conception of God can be whatever you want it to be, as long as you know it's bigger than you and you're not it. And if you're willing to make that, if you're willing to make that effort, you can recover from alcoholism or drug addiction. And it says in the book, recovered. I have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. However, I will be in recovery for the rest of my life. It's like continued maintenance on a car. If I don't get my oil changed, I'm going to crash and burn. My engine's going to blow up. I'm going to use again. I'm going to drink again. And if I do either of those things, I'm dead. It's life or death, and it's just that simple, and it's that fucking real. So I do take this very seriously, and I am very passionate about it. So we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. In the first half that we have already posted, we shot the questions: what are my fears about doing this? What does it mean that a higher power can remove them? What is my responsibility in this process? Do I believe I can change? Have I changed thus far? Are some of my character defects enjoyable because they give me pleasure? Yeah, duh. And last, are there any defects I believe that cannot be removed, and am I willing to have all of them removed? All right, so that's where we got through. I did get through 7, where I stated my character defects, and they're already posted in detail, so I'm just going to blaze through them. The 20 that I listed for myself are real simple: resentment and anger, number 1. Fear, cowardice, number 2. Self-pity, number 3. Self-justification, number 4. Self-importance and egotism, number 5. Self-condemnation and guilt, number 6. Lying, evasiveness, and dishonesty, number 7. Number 8, impatience. Number 9, hate. Number 10, false pride, phoniness, and denial. Number 11, jealousy. Number 12, envy. Number 13, laziness. Number 14, procrastination. Number 15, insincerity. Number 16, negative thinking. Hate that. 17, there's hate. Geez, see, I'm not even paying attention to my personal defects, my character defects. 17, immoral thinking. 18, perfectionism and intolerance. 19, criticizing and gossip. And number 20, greed. Now, if you go back to the first half, I explained in detail what those definitions of those character defects mean to me. And now what we're going to get to is question 8. Question 8 is this. List the ways I act out on each defect and the effect it has on myself and others. All right, first one, again, was resentment and anger. And again, these are my answers. This is the way I work them with my sponsor. Yours will be different, but you're going to probably find out if you're a real alcoholic or an addict, they're probably going to be pretty parallel. At least that's what my experience is with the guys I sponsor. Resentment, anger. A. This character defect only perpetuates additional resentments and more anger. It's like throwing fuel on the fire. It not only sets me further behind, but also alienates me and pushes others farther away. Not a good character defect by any stretch. B, number 2, fear, cowardice. This character defect negatively affects me 2 ways. First, it can be paralyzing and prevent positive action. Second, it can be pushed down, and it manifests itself, at least with me, in the form of anger. Either I withdraw or I lash out, and either of those are obviously very unhealthy character defects. 3, C, self-pity. This character defect is self-destructive in and of itself. Pour me a fucking drink, and I'm dead. It plays on self-worth, and it shows directly in the way I carry myself, interact with others, and indirectly affects almost everything I do and say. This is not an attractive quality, and others will avoid me. Absolutely. People today, they say to me, it's nice to see you. There were over 3 decades when nobody would have said that honestly. Not to me anyway. D, 4, self-justification. I can justify anything that I want if given time to overthink it. It then plays into my next character defect, and I will quickly justify behavior that I hurt myself and others around me. That's just what I do with self-justification. I do it because I want to gain something. And usually I do that by hurting someone else or taking from someone else. All right, E, self-importance, egotism. E, this character defect goes hand in hand with pride, which is one of the 7 deadly sins. Said for a reason, it promotes arrogance, cockiness, and generally speaking, the attitude of conducting myself like a real asshole or prick. Yes, I wrote that. It further alienates me from anyone and everyone. And that's a fact. And when we alienate, we isolate, and when we isolate, we use. Self-condemnation and guilt. This can be all-consuming, and it shows. It pairs nicely with self-pity as well as negative thinking, which are 2 more of my character defects. Negativity breeds negativity and will only attract people that are best not in my life. I don't want those people around me. They bring me down, and I feed into it when I'm using and drinking. It's a bad scene. Drop the guilt, correct it if possible, move forward. This one will fuck me if I let it and push positive people away. Absolutely. G, lying, dishonesty, and evasiveness. Terrible character defect. This will cause all aspects of a 12-step program to fail, every single one of them. If I'm not honest when I do these steps, I'm screwed, and I'm now wasting my drinking and using time. It's that simple. So they will cause all aspects of a 12-step program to fail. Our program requires honesty, as this particular step separates the men from the boys. It says that in the book that I follow. I was never able to stay sober until I got honest with myself. Honesty is stated 3 times in the first paragraph of the section called How It Works. 1, 2, 3, look it up. Honesty, honesty, honesty. And it's stated for a reason. And until that is both recognized and put into practice, I will absolutely fuck up everything and everyone I come in contact with, especially myself. Others, I would expect them to run from this character defect while I self-destruct. That is a fact. H, impatience. Again, guilty as charged. Impatience will build immediate resentments on both sides, which, to say the least, is counterproductive for both parties. I can also be ego-driven, and it can also be ego-driven, and goes hand in hand with another of my defects, which is perfectionism. Impatience immediately, again, pushes others away. There's a common thread we're seeing here. I hate. There's that word. I used it earlier. I hate negative people, but I shouldn't hate them. I should be able to tolerate them with love and tolerance, and I work on that daily. Case in point. So hate. When I act out on hate, I shut that person or situation down completely. When hate's involved, I will never even consider my part in it, ever. To others, this is often painful, immediate, and permanent. If I have genuine hate, I'm done with you, so to speak. So let's move on to J, false pride, phoniness, denial. I use this if I want others to only see what I want them to see, an image I wish to project and not the truth. I would use this character defect to build myself up as a defense mechanism. And again, this practice allows no one to get close to me. I keep them all at arm's length, and no one will ever know me for who I really am because I'm putting up a false front. Again, very counterintuitive. K, jealousy. I'm very guilty of this. I believe I am entitled to something I desire and another possesses. Whether it be physical, financial, or fancied, it's sometimes the result of fear and used to fuel anger and resentments. And then I become an asshole. Nobody likes an asshole. And it also plays right along with self-importance, and that sense of entitlement then is only heightened. Again, just for me. Bad combination. L, envy. When I envy someone or something, it puts all my focus on why I don't have what I want. Then self-pity creeps in and soon promotes jealousy. All of the sudden, I have 3 character defects working simultaneously, and who would want to be around that? Sad, angry, jealous, and pissed. That alone sounds like a recipe for a drunk. Absolutely. Recipe for a drunk, and I'm one drink away from being right back there. So I have to be very cognizant of that. Laziness, M. Terrible character defect and marries well with procrastination. This act is not only selfish, but rightly so, makes others angry or disgusted with me. Procrastination. I will put off everything I possibly can when I choose to, from the smallest acts to the largest, and usually find blame in others for my actions. This destroys dependability as well as trust with all others and others that I choose to involve in my life. If they don't trust me, they're not going to help me when I need them the most. And that is a fact. And I need people to help me today. I need the people within this program to help me today. That's who carries me and helps me keep my sobriety. And I wish to maintain that permanently. And I know I can if I'm aware of these things. Oh, insincerity. Insincerity. This character defect is right there with lying and evasiveness. It is avoiding the truth. After a short while, people tend to see right through this. I think we all know what I mean there. P, negative thinking. I do tend to do this, and probably more often than I'm willing to admit. I will overthink a situation and then focus all of my energy on the worst possible outcome. Often, none or little of these worst case scenarios ever even come to fruition. It's just negative future tripping, period. And negativity attracts negativity. We've said that. Most people avoid unhealthy behavior such as this, but we alcoholics and addicts tend to thrive on it, and we thrive on chaos too. Those two go hand in hand. This is definitely a character defect to be aware of. I said right there, I focus on the negativity, and I often create, results that aren't even there. One of the things I sent out to all my sponsees a couple weeks ago was an interesting quote, and this is in regard to alcoholics and addicts. We often build bridges over rivers that aren't even there. Case in point, we'll come up with 5 different outcomes for something that never even comes to fruition. So, immoral thinking, Q. Morals are the principles we follow that help us know the difference between right and wrong. When I have immoral thinking, I make decisions that purposely violate a moral agreement. Well, often we associate these things with sex. It's not always the case. Now, don't get me wrong. I said I love to do something here. Now, don't get me wrong. I love sex with my partner as much as the next person. But thank God I'm not plagued by these thoughts. I'm not 17. Yeah, I wrote that. But I am plagued by thoughts daily that violate right from wrong within me. Immoral is often confused with amoral, A-M-O-R-A-L. Immoral is often confused with amoral, which describes someone with no morals and doesn't know the difference between right from wrong. There are people out there like that. This character defect is not one bit attractive to most others and promotes poor decision making, without a question. So I have to avoid that if I'm to leave a positive life. Okay, perfectionism and intolerance. When I want the best for myself, from myself rather, and others, I expect the absolute best. And I said that rather, expect the best. I set myself up for disappointment. These expectations are not often met and result in immediate resentments. If I don't get what I expect you're going to give me, then I'm already pissed. It's just going to happen that fast. That takes me right back to number 1, which is anger. Remember, anger. Then I push that person that let me down in my mind away, and the result is intolerance, and I'm done with that person or situation. You fucked me over and I'm done with you. And we have to have a little more grace. And it goes right back to what we said last night when we filmed the first half. I am not responsible for my first thought. As an addict and an alcoholic, I'm always going to have that first thought, but I am responsible for my second thought and my first action. Second thought and first action are entirely within my power, and I need to have that so I can respond rather than react. All right, criticizing and gossip. Ugh. When I criticize, I find I'm tearing someone else down on what I see as their faults. I'm taking their inventory. This puts me on a proverbial pedestal, and it becomes impossible to see any positives they may have as well. This is the perfect breeding ground for gossip. Excellent. I naturally wish to share with anyone else who will listen why I'm right or have a better solution, and why this person's viewpoint or actions or ideas are clearly fucked up to me. This builds a wall of superiority on my part and can spread my skewed viewpoints on others or situations which are often imaginary or not true. And that is very viable. I mean, that's what gossip is. And we all do it to make ourselves look better. So, got to be aware of it. And then last but not least for me was greed. I want more of anything I like, things that make me feel good or provide self-security. And again, this character defect can come at the expense, and often does, of others, as I put myself first. This character defect goes hand in hand with each of the previous 19 character defects I just mentioned and elaborated on. It goes hand in hand with all of them in one shape or form. It is extremely selfish, and as an alcoholic and addict, I am selfish. I tend to put myself ahead of everyone else when I want something for me, and this defect has to remain in constant check, or it will shine through, further isolate me, and turn others off. All right, that brings us to the 9th question. Write about what my life would be like without each defect and what principle I may be able to apply instead. All right, and I wrote this. Okay, this would be extremely long and repetitive if I did this for all 20. Instead, I'm simply going to list the 12 principles, spiritual principles, and how I can apply them to my life, okay? So here we go. What are the 12 spiritual principles? They are in order. Number 1, honesty. Number 2, hope. Number 3, surrender. Number 4, courage. Number 5, integrity. 6, willingness, which my sponsor told me should be number 1, because it should be. Willingness. Number 7, humility. Number 8, love. Number 9, responsibility. Number 10, discipline. Number 11, awareness. And number 12, service to others. So, first one, honesty. This spiritual principle plays through in all 20 of my character defects and is at the top of the list for a reason. Honesty is being sincere and truthful in all of my actions. Being honest is not only direct and open, it's honorable. Being honest is honorable. By being honest, the result is a quality that is upright in principle and action and is therefore genuine. Positive statements about this statement go without saying. I could fill a book. I can only try to practice this in all my affairs, but I will often fall short in light of my own desires. So being aware of it is a lifelong attempt to better myself. 2, hope. I have to have hope that can be applied to my defects of character, hope that I can move beyond them, to recover, to obtain that which has been lost. In addition, hope to regain my health, self-awareness, balance, composure. This will all come through in my actions when I apply hope to my character defects. I must have hope and faith that my higher power, my God of my understanding, will give me the strength to do this on a daily and situational basis. And I believe my higher power will. 3, surrender. This is simply being able to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand Him, which is obviously right there in step 3. Turning my will over to His directly goes against all the negative connotations of my character defects. The result is a better life. A better life for me and every single person I come in contact with. Everybody. No question about it. Courage, number 4. This is the quality of mind or spirit that allows me to face danger, fear, or difficulties with self-possession, confidence, and determination. I will have the moxie to stand on my own 2 feet. I will bow to no one. I will cease fighting anyone and everything, including alcohol, including narcotics, and that's straight out of my book. By adopting and practicing this principle, I'll be able to recognize myself in my defects and address it as it comes. The result will be my ability to do what is right rather than the easier, softer way, which we always, of course, want. Which has always been falling back on my defects. That is the easier, softer way, is falling back on those character defects. Number 5, integrity. When using drugs or alcohol, especially, and when not, integrity is something that for me is easily left behind in light of my character defects. Integrity of a personality trait, it is a personality trait, and that compromises wholeness deriving from honesty and consistent uprightness of character. By practicing this, a value system may evolve over time while retaining integrity if I expose these values and use them on to account for and resolve inconsistencies. By putting this theory into practice, it will directly affect my life in all areas, relationships, encounters, and simply saying everything I do or say. Number 6, willingness. This is one of the principles that says it all. And again, my sponsor told me that should be number 1. He's probably right because I listen to what he says. But again, this is exactly how I wrote it, verbatim, time number 1. So this is one of the principles that says it all. I have to be willing in so many areas to even begin to accept these principles, as well as my character defects. After all, if I'm not willing to accept them, then in no way will I ever be able to take any kind of corrective measure. Willingness is just a readiness consisting of or proceeding from an exercise of free will. Once this is accepted, I can then be prepared in mind, manner, and attitude, and only then can this be applied to my character defects. The result? A better way of living for myself and all those around me. Like I said, everyone I come in contact with. 7, humility. This principle was and continues to be a challenging pitfall of mine. True humility is the absence of self-pride, self-will, or assertion. This should not be confused with self-confidence. There is a difference. We need to be able to recognize humility and have the ability and confidence to support it. This will make me appreciate others and their efforts rather than to only focus on myself. And that is true humility as I understand it. Number 8, love. Love towards others is not always easy for alcoholics and addicts, at least not for me. Especially when I may not even like them. And there are people I don't like that are in the programs of recovery, and I have to love them and support them for why they're there, but it doesn't mean I have to go out and have a cup of coffee with them. There are plenty of people in the AA and NA program I simply do not like, and chances are they don't like me. Go figure. That's okay. Nowhere does it say that I have to like everyone, but it clearly states principles before personalities. If that person that I don't like is trying to do the next right thing or help another person, after all, our primary purpose is what? To help, to stay sober and clean, and then to help others in addiction recover. That's it. So if those people are practicing that, then I should support them and have a love for them. So principles before personalities. So I can love everyone even if I don't like them. Love is just a complex set of emotions, behaviors, and beliefs associated with strong feelings of affection, protectiveness, warmth, and respect. Key there, respect for another person. It can be based on sexual desires, of course, but as I've stated above, can be and often is completely devoid of such a characteristic. Love thy neighbor as I love thyself, case in point. So love can be practiced out of respect without other emotions needlessly tied in. This will work wonders in interpersonal relationships with everyone. Absolutely. 9, responsibility. Responsibility is a principle I fail to practice when using or sober when I let my character defects shine through. Responsibility goes by the wayside. Self will run riot. I neglect my spouse, myself, my dogs, my house, my yard, my financial obligations. The list goes on ad infinitum. Responsible is a good quality or state of being reliable and trustworthy in all matters. Having a duty or ability to deal with someone or something, life on life's terms, so to speak. If I am not responsible, I am not dependable, and this will undoubtedly have negative effects on everyone around me. I choose to act responsible today and depend on our design for living to do so. All right, number 10, discipline. This is a spiritual principle, and it refers to me, to self-discipline. Without this, I will fall into a myriad of pitfalls. Bad habits, lethargy, overeating are the ones that come directly to mind, but more important, my meeting attendance. And if I let my meeting attendance and my spiritual maintenance slide, I'm fucked. I'm throwing it all away quickly, and I've proved that time and time again over decades. So I cannot let my meeting attendance and participation get in the way of that. I hope you're okay. Daily
malfunction.
Working with others. Once the self-discipline falls short in these areas, I am setting myself up for relapse. Part of self-discipline is the ability to pursue what one thinks is right. Another piece is the ability, discipline, to control my impulses and desires, forgoing immediate satisfaction in favor of long-term goals, like permanent recovery, sobriety. Without this, I'm totally fucked. And again, I wrote that. Without this, I am totally fucked. And by fucking myself, I will fuck all those around me. Right there. And this is the original 6th step I did. 11, awareness. This allows me to better understand other people, how they perceive me, and my attitude in response to them at that moment. Also, understanding my personality includes my strengths, weaknesses, beliefs, motives, and emotions. When I have an awareness of my own being, I can recognize these in addition to my thoughts and actions. Being said, with a good understanding of how I relate to others, I can adjust my belief and behavior so that I deal with them properly and positively. Being aware of what upsets me, I can then improve my self-control, and by understanding my weaknesses, I can then learn to manage them and reach my goals despite my limitations. This is important for better relationships and for a more fulfilling life, both at home and outside circumstances. In order for me to change my life in any way, I need to know myself before I can act. That's a fact. Last but not least, service. This principle is one of the cornerstones of my own personal recovery, absolutely working with others. It is the sole piece that immediately takes me out of myself and puts my focus on others. By doing so, I am immediately removed from most of my shortcomings or defects, which are one and the same. Service is simply the action of voluntarily helping or doing work with or for someone and expecting nothing in return. This or these acts are exactly what our co-founders meant when they penned, "Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics and addicts achieve sobriety." Case in point. It is further reinforced when I recite this is a responsibility saying from a certain group I practice. I am responsible when anyone, anywhere reaches out for help. I want the hand of recovery always to be there, and for that I am responsible. Nowhere did it say that they had to be an alcoholic or an addict. It says, I am responsible when anyone, anywhere reaches out for help. So, there are all the questions for step 6, and then I did a little summary here for step 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. I hope I explained that in detail. I definitely believe in my higher power, my God and my understanding, if you will. I believe that all things are possible through Him. Without this certainty, I would not believe that step 6 would even be possible. Knowing that it is impossible to simply have all of my character defects removed, I have to have the willingness to act and accept my God and my understanding's direction in dealing with them on an ongoing and daily basis. I believe and interpret step 6 as having the best possible attitude that I can take as these defects crop up in what is to be a lifelong journey. Being said, patient improvement is nothing more than a degree of willingness and readiness. My personal desires or defects will always come up which oppose the grace or direction of my higher power. These will come up throughout my day, and this willingness and readiness will help me avoid the excess I desire